A couple of years ago, I lived in an apartment complex situated near a vast woods. I had often jogged through the woods, enjoying the tranquility it offered. However, one day, I felt a sudden urge to explore deeper into the forest, venturing off the beaten path. The woods stretched back for several miles, and the farther I went, the denser it became. The running trails only extended about a mile into the woods, so, to go beyond that, I would have to navigate off the trail. With my phone in hand for general direction, I embarked on my expedition. As I walked through the trees and tall grass, the surroundings grew increasingly dense. The foliage obstructed my view, limiting visibility to a mere 20 to 30 feet. Nevertheless, I pressed on, fascinated by the untouched wilderness. The ground was covered in dirt, with plant and branches scattered about. Around 15 minutes into my venture, I turned a corner round a massive tree and stumbled upon a small clearing. The opening spanned about 30 to 40 feet, revealing a peculiar sight that made me question my eyesight. Across the clearing stood a shirtless man, towering over 6 feet tall, clutching a large stick in his hand. The man's attention seemed fixated on the ground, muttering indistinguishable words. The whole scene felt eerie and out of place. Just as I tried to comprehend the situation, he suddenly raised his stick and forcefully slammed it against the ground. It startled me, triggering a sense of unease. At that moment, I decided it was time to retreat. Unsure if the man was aware of my presence, I opted to wait and observe his actions. However, my hopes of staying undetected were shattered when he started walking directly toward the tree I was hiding behind. The man's voice rang out, shouting, "Get out of here." I couldn't be certain if his words were directed at me, but I wasn't willing to take any chances. Without a second thought, I sprinted back in the direction I had come from, with the man in pursuit. The forest grew chaotic as I raced through the tangled undergrowth. Branches lashed at me, leaving scratches on my arms and legs. Desperation fueled my screams, pleading for the man to leave me alone. But he persisted, relentless in his chase. After what felt like an eternity, the sound of his footsteps faded away. Although I couldn't hear him anymore, my adrenaline-fueled instincts urged me to keep running. Eventually, I paused to catch my breath and checked my phone for directions. Confirming the right path, I resumed jogging, eager to put distance between myself and the menacing pursuer. When I finally emerged from the woods, I was battered and bleeding from the onslaught of branches. But despite the wounds, I felt a deep sense of relief. It was a small price to pay to avoid the clutches of that mysterious man. From that day on, I never set foot in those woods again. The incident served as a chilling reminder of the dangers that can lurk in even the most familiar places. The memory of that encounter has stayed with me, a constant reminder to prioritize safety and trust my instincts. This happened to me and my friend Sam a few weeks ago. We were both adventurous and loved exploring the outdoors. Our friends had recently introduced us to this beautiful park in Wisconsin, which we had visited with them a few times. Each visit had been pleasant, filled with walks, stunning views of Lake Michigan, and engaging conversations. One evening, Sam and I decided to go alone to the park around dusk to take some pictures. The park was massive, with numerous bridges, footpaths, and winding roads nestled amidst dense woods. As we were crossing a bridge, a car suddenly drove by, and a man leaned out of the window, yelling at us. Startled, we dismissed it as a random incident and continued our walk. Less than a minute later, the same car returned, this time driving in the opposite direction. The driver's side window rolled down, and another man called out to us, urging us to come closer. Sensing something was off, we increased our pace. But, as we neared the end of the bridge, we saw the car approaching us again from its original direction. It was clear that they were following us. Without hesitation, we sprinted up into the trees, racing up a hill as we heard the car screech to a halt. The two men inside started yelling for us, but we remained hidden, crouched in the darkness for what felt like an eternity. Eventually, they left, and we cautiously emerged from our hiding spot. We ran back to our car, relieved to have escaped the situation. You would think that after such an experience, we would avoid the park altogether. However, after regaining our composure and warming up with hot chocolate, we found humor in our fear and decided to return to the park with our male friends. Surprisingly, nothing remotely scary happened during those visits, so Sam and I thought it would be fine to venture back alone once more. Sam and I often spent our afternoons and early evenings outdoors, exploring, hiking, and engaging in activities like geocaching. We included the park in our adventures, thinking that our previous encounter had been an isolated incident. We headed back to the park around dusk, armed with our camera to capture some of the shots we missed the first time. As we approached the same bridge, a familiar car rolled by, and true to form, the window rolled down, and a person shouted some random noise. We didn't wait for them to drive around this time. Instead, we swiftly ducked into the woods, changing our plans to explore the pier and take photos of the lake instead. The park had a long road leading down a grassy hill, curving into a parking lot where the pier was located. As we made our way down, the same car entered the parking lot by the pier. Although they didn't say anything this time, we decided to slow down, considering whether we should proceed to the pier or not. The car turned around in the parking lot, and as it reached us, it stopped. Without wasting any time, we turned and started running down the hill. All the car's windows rolled down, and we could see 4 guys and 1 girl inside. They yelled at us, and one of them remarked, "Oh hey, you're cute," joined by the others in crude comments. They then added, "Wait for us." Despite our bundled-up appearances, making it difficult to see our faces or figures, they persisted. They declared, "We're coming back for you," as they revved up the car and sped up the hill. Sam and I didn't want to take any chances, so we sprinted toward the bridge. Once we crossed the bridge, we noticed a concrete deck on the left side, leading to a ramp with a 5-foot drop-off. We quickly jumped down, concealing ourselves from their view. The car screeched to a halt, and the 4 individuals got out, screaming and laughing. Their voices echoed through the air, filled with threats disguised as playful gestures, while some of them rushed toward the pier to remain behind. We overheard bits and pieces of their conversation, discussing where we might have gone and how they intended to find us. In a huddled and frightened state, Sam and I stayed put. We waited until the area fell silent, hoping they had given up the chase. After some time, we cautiously peeked over the edge of the bridge. One guy was on the other side, and upon spotting us, he alerted his friends and began sprinting toward us. Without hesitation, we fled toward a nearby development, running alongside a tennis court. 3 of them chased after us, with one getting dangerously close. We made a quick turn between 2 houses, disappearing from their sight. Fortunately, we never encountered them again. We made our way back to our car, taking a slow and careful route through the forest preserve. Every road crossing filled us with terror, but eventually, we reached our vehicle and quickly drove away. That night, we contacted our friends, the ones we usually visited the park with, and shared our harrowing experience. From that moment forward, they insisted on accompanying us every time we returned to the park. We learned a valuable lesson about personal safety and the importance of not underestimating potential dangers. Regardless of past experiences,